trying to hold us down. And silence is what you sound. Don't realize we can't be bound. So what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Truth is that we can't be tamed. To be fair, could you make me blame us? So obvious why we're famous. So what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Gonna rise up, gonna get going. Take this day by storm. Gonna wake up in a new light. Next day do some more. Damn, wake up in the morning and we're good to go. Gonna get some, hustle till done. The next day doing our core. You know we gonna get where we're going. All we gotta do is keep rolling. Doing our core. You know we gonna get where we're going. All we gotta do is keep rolling. Next day doing our core. You cut me loose and set me free. You cut me loose. You make me win in every way. Win in every way. You show me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way.
Hello, welcome to the Starting Million Show. It's your host, Asher Au. Welcome. And today I have a very special guest. I'm very happy to invite my friend here today. So, who is my friend that's coming up in a bit? Okay, I just want to show the title of the image today. Okay, this is the lessons from a $30 million man. Okay, so his name is Alvin Poh. I'll let him introduce himself a little bit while, but let me just give a very short introduction about who he is. He is a Singapore internet entrepreneur. He's an angel investor. He is a philanthropist. He's also best known for co-founding Vodian Internet Solutions, growing it to be the largest hosting provider in Singapore. All right, so this is like an ultra short introduction about him. And without further ado, I'm gonna bring him straight on to the show. Welcome to the show, Alvin. Woohoo!
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, man, thank you for coming on to the show. Very happy to have you here. And there's one fun fact I found that was quite interesting, you know. And Fiona, thank you, #live, for coming in live and joining us on the show as well. Thank you so much. All right, so Alvin and I were actually both the same age. Okay, so that's actually interesting to think that. Yeah, you are in November, I'm in March. All right, so we are both
nice.
1984, year of the right. Yeah, and there's one introduction that I like to use when I'm teaching my classes, and I think you can probably use the same thing if you want to, but I don't think you will. But I usually say, "Hi guys, my name is Asher. I'm from Singapore." Okay, so a fun fact about me: I'm the same age as Mark Zuckerberg. I'm about the same height, but I'm not as rich. So
I didn't even know Zuckerberg was 1984 as well.
yeah, he's 1984. So some like man, it's like oh crap. And now I found someone else who is like same age as well and also doing fantastic. So that guy will be you, man.
Thanks, man. Like, we can talk about my story and like how I got to be the person that I am today. But I wasn't born rich. I wasn't born successful. So it was a long journey of hard work.
Thank you so. I mean, you're very, very humble. I saw some of your story as well, and also, I know a little bit about the story. And actually, today I just really want to spend more time getting to know more about you and hear from you as well. So, now you've started Vodian before, and okay, this is something I'm curious. You started Vodian before, and then from Vodian itself, and after you have your exit of $30 million exit, okay,
Yeah.
and I would say most people with like 30 million, they're like, just relax, just gonna do their own thing. As you did travel around the world, you did explore different kind of stuff. But can you share with me why is it that you decided to create CLDY? Why did you decide to create CLDY?
Sure. So CLDY is a cloud hosting startup. And I'll go into the details, but here's some backstory. I left the business in 2018. I left Vodian officially from the business in 2018. All right. So the acquisition happened in 2017, but I stayed on for a year. So officially I left in 2018. And I was really trying to retire. I was trying to finally take a break after 17 years of trying to grow the business and work on the business. So when 2018 came, the first thing that I did was actually not the first thing, but one of the main things that I wanted to do was to really just travel. All right. And I did that for 2 whole years. I was just bouncing from place to place, no home, no fixed address, nothing. The one question that I always had on the top of my mind, though, every single day when I woke up, was, Alvin, what do you want to do today? Can you imagine like having your whole life being like responsible for a lot of things, your business, your customers, your team, and then suddenly not having that responsibility anymore? So for me, I think that was a period where I had to really find purpose and meaning again. And the strange thing was, no matter where I was in the world, no matter what I was doing, I was always gravitating back towards entrepreneurship. I was always gravitating back towards business. Even snowboarding, I would think of like how or why things were, in terms of like the way resorts were run, snowboarding resorts, snow sports resorts, the lessons that they had, the instructors, and wondering like, how best to do things or how better to do things.
Mm.
And I think for me, I guess that really showed me that entrepreneurship was in my blood. Like everything I did was centered around business. So I knew for a fact that eventually, that was something that I wanted to get back into. The other thing that happened was, over the years, after the acquisition of Vodian in 2017, the group that acquired it was Dreamscape Networks. Dreamscape Networks eventually also got acquired. And this happened, I think, about 3 years later. So I think it was about maybe 2 or 3, I think probably about 2019, 2020. And then
Just
they
before
got
COVID, I
acquired.
guess.
Yeah, and then they got acquired again.
Mm.
So of this whole big group, Vodafone was just one small entity, and the customers of Vodafone literally went through like 3 acquisitions. And I think some of our personal friends, and I say our because it's my co-founder and it's some of the staff, the old team that we had at Vodian,
Mhm.
that felt that some things weren't really as per what the original vision was, which was to provide a web hosting experience that could allow our target audience, our customers, to really not worry about hosting at all, right? To make it so seamless, so simple, so easy that it's no longer technical, it's no longer this obscure technology that any business could come on and just buy a hosting account and literally have their websites working, have their emails working. They didn't
Mm.
have to bother about things like DNS and security and HTTPS and all the terms that were very, very technical to people, especially if they were not technical people. So over the years, we found that Vodian as a company slowly strayed away from that vision, and I think that was very, very clearly felt by all the Vodian customers and our friends, whom we knew were looking for another web host, another web
Right.
hosting provider that could really help them with that process. And so
Okay.
eventually, I think that showed us that there was a gap in the market. There was a problem that needed to be solved. There was a pain point that needed to be solved. And so that's why my co-founder and I, decided that, hey, it's time to really set up a business that can really resolve these needs, right? And make sure that in terms of web hosting, at least, that we do a good job for our customers, that we make sure that, the things that my co-founder and I wanted to solve like many years back, like when we were the ages of 17, those things still get resolved. And that's something that is our promise to our customers. So CLDY is a renewed, I would say, attempt. We're not successful yet, but it's a renewed attempt to really making sure that vision, that promise, can be fulfilled. So that's
Mm.
why
Okay.
CLDY was started.
I see. I see. So CLDY was kind of it came out because after Vodafone was sold off and it changed hands so many times, the original vision was lost, uh, or rather wasn't withheld. I wouldn't say lost. Okay, but maybe not withheld. And what happens is that now you're coming back into the game to bring that in. So then my question now is, because Vodafone has a fair amount of market share and web hosting is very aggressive, right?
Hmm.
Yes, a very aggressive space. So how do you plan to, what do you plan to do different with CLDY, if anything?
So the market, or how saturated it is, or how competitive a market is, I think it's actually a good thing, because it actually means that there's demand, right? There's great demand, and therefore there's great competition. So while we had the good fortune to start Vodian in 2002, I think that was, the market and the space was a lot less competitive. But we don't see that as a problem right now. I think it only tells us that we need to really be on, our like, to be on our, to be on our feet, right? And to be like, to be on the balls of our feet, to be, really clear about the value that we bring to our customers, right? And this is not something that's against a particular company. It's not something against Vodian. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
something that we see that is a market gap here in the hosting space, and it's the few things that customers are looking out for, right? To have a host that actually understands them and can help them in, creating like their websites, or they're hosting their websites, or hosting their emails. So how do we differentiate ourselves? There are a few unique selling points that we bring, and these are all based on what the customer needs. So
Mm.
the customer that needs hosting, or web hosting, email hosting, cloud hosting, only has a few things that they are looking out for. One, of course, is performance, right? We want to make sure that, hey, does it even load fast? And that's something that we definitely want to make sure that our infrastructure and our accounts and our servers, they're all set up and optimized towards performance. But performance can't be the only factor, right? So we also
Mm.
look at stability, and we see this happening quite a lot, which has got to do with the uptime or the availability of websites. And one of the worst things that can happen to a business is if your website cannot be accessed by your customers. And that's a terrible thing to have, especially these days where everything is online. It's
Yeah.
almost like going down to a physical shop and then finding it closed, right? Or realizing
Mm.
that there's a power outage, and you can't either go to a restaurant or go into the store, whatever it is. It's the same thing for a website. And so that's the second thing that we optimize for. The third thing is making sure that it's security. There's security that we
Mm.
also optimize, because a lot of times it might not even be from the host itself. It might be from externally that attacks come from, right? That it's cyber attacks. It could come in many forms. It could be a brute force attack, somebody malicious, or maybe just the term is script kiddies, and these people basically use tools to run like brute force attacks to find vulnerabilities in servers or accounts all over the world, right? And if they find you, then they'll launch an attack. So we want to make sure that we create preventive measures around that as well, because a lot of times customers don't have the ability to do that themselves. So as a host, I think that's one of our main responsibilities, to create a very secure environment so that our customers know that they are safe, or at least in safe hands, and that their security is taken care of. We also want to make sure that we provide support. And I think that's something that's really important, no matter what business you're in, or no matter what business you're buying products and services from. I've even to today, I experienced like businesses where I approach them and I cannot get hold of anybody. Just the other day, I was like trying to. I had a bad back, so I went to get like treatment, and I submitted it as a personal accident claim, and that was 2 months ago. Haven't heard back from people, and every time I try calling the insurance office, I can't get hold of anybody, right? And it's a very frustrating feeling to have when you cannot get
Mm.
hold of help. So I know that feeling, and I don't want my customers to ever go through that. So that's something that we also pride ourselves on, to provide that kind of level of support. And lastly, is to really make all these as simple as possible, right? All these things are great to have. And while we tell customers these are available to them, a lot of our customers, again, they're not tech people. They don't care. They just
Yeah.
want to see the end result, which is, hey, my website is up, running, fast, secure, and I can run my business in peace, right? Knowing that all these things are taken care of. and keeping that process as simple as possible for them. That's one of our main goals also. So I think these are the 5 main areas that we make very strong promises to our customers. We even guarantee it. So if people have websites and they come to onto our infrastructure, we even guarantee them at least a 30% speed increase. Sometimes we've seen as much as over 500% speed improvements in a customer's website. All right, and this is purely because the previous hosts or their existing hosts aren't optimized for their websites. So that's the kind of value that we bring to the table, and we know that we are actually solving real needs that customers have. That's how we differentiate ourselves.
Very cool. Thank you for doing that. And I did web services for a period of time as well, doing web design and stuff like that. So I completely hear you when it comes like clients don't care about this DNS stuff, MX forward, whatever kind of stuff. They don't care about any of it. They just want, is my emails coming in? Is why my website so slow? Kind of thing. So they want to get all these things settled with. And I hear you 100%. Sometimes it's like even though we try to hand it off to them, hey guys, this is your website, you know, it's all done already. They still need a human touch to someone who's there, who knows that something goes wrong and needs some help. There's a human they can talk to, they can ask about, and I hear you 100%. And I think that's really important to help, especially for website. That's even though anywhere you can get web hosting or some or a designer anywhere pretty much, but the human touch is still super duper important.
Completely
So
agree.
I have a question because we got a bunch of questions. By the way, guys, those who are watching with me live, right, or watching live, do a hashtag live, or you got any questions, feel free to drop them down below. I'll be able to ask Alvin here as well if we got a bit of time. But otherwise, I'm gonna ask my questions, okay? Because I wanted to ask Alvin also. Okay, so Alvin, for this, okay, because you have after you've traveled around a lot, okay, you've done a fair amount of traveling. How do you actually keep yourself inspired and motivated to do things? Because now that the money issue is not so much of an issue now, I wouldn't say it's gone, but not as much. Okay, how do you keep yourself inspired and motivated to do the things that you do?
I think it's knowing what the end goal is, right? So, motivation and inspiration and progress can come only if you know what the objective is, only if you know what the end result you want is. And that's also part of what I tell my clients at Super Scaling also, that it's not just a personal thing, it's also a business related thing, right? We have to define the end goal so that not just ourselves personally, but our teams can understand where we are headed towards. And I think that's the best way to get inspired and motivated, because a lot of times we are very fuzzy in the end result that we want. We're very fuzzy in the end goal that we want. Let me give you an example. A lot of times people, they see success, right? And they love, say, the image of success. This could be like, being a famous singer or being a famous actor or famous entrepreneur, Elon Musk or whatever, right? And they see that, they love that, right? But what they don't know or what they don't appreciate is the journey that gets them there. It's a long, arduous journey, right? If it's not arduous, if it's not hard, if it's easy, then there's no value, right? So there's always going to be a journey that's tough. And appreciating that journey, knowing that getting to that point takes time, takes effort, takes a lot of resources, and takes a lot of patience. Knowing that, I think gets us to a point of appreciation so that we can actually enjoy the process of getting there too. That was something that that was something that I wasn't, I couldn't wrap my head around. I was more intrigued by like getting to things fast and getting to specific milestones and not really appreciating the process. All right, and that led to a lot of burnout. That led to a lot of frustration, and that led to a lot of wavering. So now I'm a lot clearer about why I do things and making sure that, hey, these are the end results or the objectives that I want, and that the process that takes me there really requires that kind of discipline, that kind of just showing up, and a kind of commitment, right? And I think that would trump relying on motivation or relying on inspiration to get you there.
True, very true. And just want to check over here, and we got Sandy who's coming in, hashtag live as Sandy Brown. Okay, we have also got
Hey,
Robert saying hashtag live as well. Yeah,
hi,
hashtag live. And
Robert.
Robert says hi to Alvin here. And yeah, definitely. And Alvin, Fiona saying, so true, we only see the glory part and not the journey. And Frederick is coming with hashtag live as well. Thank you guys for coming in live together. Yeah, and we're here together having a chat together with Alvin Poh, the $30 million man. All right. So, by the way, Alvin is buff. I just have to say this. Alvin, you work out a lot, right? So, speaking about you working out a lot, keeping yourself motivated because it's not easy to get that. What are some of your goals right now, man?
So this is, I mean, it's a great example, right? It's a great example of whatever we just talked about, because the goal that I have for my fitness is not six pack abs. The goal that I have for my fitness is much, much longer than that. It's to really, this is a story. This is a funny story that happened the other day. I was on Instagram and somebody asked the question, uh, what is the importance, or how important is fitness, right? I think that was the question. Very simple question. How important is fitness? And I mean, to me, it's that question is a very odd question, if you ask me, because it tells me that there's a lot of context that's not there. So for me, fitness is important. It's tremendously important, because for me, the end goal is to get to an old age, i.e., like 80 years old, and still be mobile. That is the concept of health span rather than lifespan, right? Like, I think to
Mm,
get to the average lifespan is pretty easy. I mean, statistically, you just have to be average, and you probably get there. But the condition that you are in when you get to your average lifespan, I think that's the difference, right? I want to be able to be mobile. I want to be able to be agile. I want to be able to have the strength to still, be able to move myself around and do things without pain or discomfort at the age of 80. And therefore,
mm,
fitness becomes important. As a by result, yes, there's like six pack abs and you look buff and stuff like that. Sure. But my goal is not that. My goal is not like to be a aesthetic physique kind of bodybuilder. My goal is not to win bodybuilding championships. That's not my goal at all. Right. So that's why
mm.
I do the things that I do for fitness, at least.
Okay.
So that, I think, is the goal that I have, and it trumps quite a lot of things, and it's like overarching a lot of things as well.
Mm. Okay. So
Yeah.
planning for the future, really. So like by the time you're old, you won't be like hunched over, but you'll be ready to still ready to experience life and everything. Very good dream. I think definitely very something I aspire as well. Not just be like, give me my walking stick. Too that was too horrible. So,
And that really
uh,
happens. Like, there's a neighborhood park, at least near where my parents live. That's where I grew up, and there are people there who, they do exercise. They walk around the
mhm,
park, right? The thing is, they age, and they start using mobility aids like crutches or the walkers, and it's quite sad, right? Because
yeah.
then they don't have the mobility anymore. So I think, yes, being non-sedentary is important, like just walking around and all that, but there needs to be a focus on actually not just regaining that. I mean, even maintaining that level of agility, mobility, fitness, flexibility is important, right? And it takes some effort to do that. Yeah.
Okay. So I got a couple of questions that I want to ask you, but I also realized
Yeah.
that we've only roughly got about 40 minutes of time, so I want to get through these questions. So one of these questions, in fact, what do you have over here? Okay, Robert, you did ask a question over here, so I will bring your question back here in a bit, Robert. Okay, I'll bring this question in the back in a bit. So, and you say it's relating to the last question, but because did ask a similar question, I know what you're thinking, Robert. I'll bring it back in a bit. Frederick
Yeah.
says mindset, yes, for sure. And that's definitely a very good mindset to have. So for this right now, Alvin, I want to ask you this, okay? Because we're also talking a little bit about money right here, is how do you view money and what does it represent to you?
I see money as a tool. yeah, it's not something that I check every day. I don't check my bank account every day and look at the money that I have. I don't think that's a very healthy mindset. At least for me, I think personally, that's my philosophy. I see money as a tool for me to do things, and these things could be either like travel. I like traveling. I like being able to I everything from like going to the gym to uh, doing whatever it is that I want, right? That's in line with my
Mhm.
lifestyle. I don't think I have a very lavish lifestyle, but I think money is a tool to enable you to do that, right? I could be doing a much more budgeted version or budget version of my lifestyle, right? But maybe that would be because of like money constraints, right? And that's why I do something like that. But now that I'm able to, I think money enables me to a certain lifestyle, and that's something that I see money helping to do. In terms of business, it's a scorecard. I'd say it's a scorecard because I feel that, especially in businesses, it allows you to have an understanding of whether or not you are actually providing real value to your customers. Because if you're not providing value and if you're not giving customers what they want and need, then there is no transaction. They are not going to part with their
Right.
money because there's no point, right? And they don't see the point, the value of it.
Mm.
And so the money that comes from business, I feel, is a scorecard that allows the business to not only sustain itself, but to thrive and to grow. And that is the whole point of it. Is the lifeblood, is the oxygen of business. Without money, for instance, businesses, they can't do research and development. They can't invest in their people and infrastructure so that they can grow bigger and so that they can provide better services. They can't expand. And I think that's one of the limitations if you don't have money. That's the same view that I have for my personal life as well.
Okay, okay. So I agree with you 100%. Money is pretty much just a tool. It is a magnifier as well. 100% agree with on that. And I really like what you just said is a scorecard. You know, all things being equal, right? How much money you're making through the business is actually a proof of whether people need the business because they're gonna vote with their wallets. You know, they're not gonna vote with their mouth, they vote with their wallets. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
very, very true. Yeah. So one question I have over here, which is what do you know now that you didn't know when you start out? Okay. I think this is a little bit similar to this question that Robert did send a little bit earlier. So I'll replace my question with this one over here. So would you walk the same path if you weren't getting 30 million from selling your business? Would you walk the same path?
Totally. In fact, a few years ago, like even before the acquisition, my co-founder and I weren't even thinking of exiting the business. The acquisition, in fact, wasn't even an acquisition. It was supposed to be a merger where the two companies would come together. And I mean, they were four times our size, right? They were the leading company in Australia. So they were massive. Australia is a big country, big population. So they're four times our size. And naturally, we got acquired. And the goal was to actually merge and to expand to Southeast Asia. But the merger didn't work out. So yeah, in the end we left. But if you to ask that question about whether or not I'll do the same thing and go through that same journey, yes, I would. I think it gave me tremendous fulfillment and tremendous satisfaction from running a business that took care of not only the team that we had, but also our customers. Because the hosting space literally wasn't like there wasn't anybody else that was doing what we were doing for the customers. So I think I would definitely do that again. If even if like the point wasn't the exit.
Mm. And I like that a lot because a lot of people when they start a business, they're really there for to they start to out, they start to exit. I don't know. That's the idea, right? They want to start it so they can exit. But when you started Vodia, if I recall as well, your journey was you just kept doing. You got like it wasn't like a explosive growth. You know, you just continuously grew, and you had about 35,000 customers, I think, at one point. I'm not too
Yeah.
sure whether the numbers I got correctly. So that was actually very helpful. That was very good to see as well. So Now, then maybe I'll come back to this big question over here, right? So, what do you know now, okay, that you didn't know when you started out?
Oh man, so many things. Like I feel like I learn something new every like year. I look back and I'm like, oh wow, I wish I knew those things, and I think life is this continual like learning journey. So I know so much now. Even like, even super scaling the book that I wrote, I didn't know those concepts until I actually spent time, extracting the journey and the mistakes and the lessons that I went through, and put them to paper. That process alone took me about most part of a year, like 9 to 12 months, just to come up with that, right? Because as we go through life, it's really difficult to stop and to ask ourselves or question ourselves why we did certain things or what we learned from certain things, right? And life just passes us by. That is why people talk a lot about journaling, and I think that's a great practice
Mhm.
because it's a feedback mechanism that allows you to really pause for a second or a few minutes and write down, what has transpired, what has, been learned, what's experience. um Otherwise we'll just, the days will just go by, the weeks will just go by, and before we know it, a whole decade passes, and looking back we'll be like, wow, what happened there? So yeah, I know a lot now. It's probably a really big topic. Yeah,
Okay,
but
we'll see if I can invite you for another time. Then you see whether you can talk. No promises, no commitment regarding your part, right? Just
yeah,
putting it out
so
there.
when I was
Because
younger,
guys, bro, I invited you 2 years ago. I don't know. You recall that?
yeah, this would have been a, I mean, this is a much better episode than if you got me like 2 years ago, because 2 years ago I didn't know the things that I know now, and 2 years ago I probably
Mm,
wouldn't be even able to express myself the way that I can right now, because I didn't know, I didn't understand the concepts that I'm more aware of right now. um yeah, so maybe that's one thing, right? To be more
maybe. Yeah.
self-aware, right? That's one thing that I can say that I wish I knew back then
Mm,
also.
100%. Thank you so much, man. Okay, so
Yeah.
Frederick saying money is a concept. I think he was referring to your comment earlier.
Mhm.
So, how you get leads for your customers?
Is this
Hmm.
for CLDY or is this for super scaling?
Let's put it into that doesn't make sense to be for super scaling, right? But hmm.
For
Maybe
CLDY?
Frederick, if you want to clarify, is this for CLDY or is this for super scaling? Just let me know in the chat down below. This one, Robert says can relate to that. All right, so we can get back to your question over here. So now I have another question for you, Alvin. Right. So with regards to because you are also a coach now, also helping other entrepreneurs. You're a philanthropist as well. You're also giving a lot to the younger folks. Okay, so what's a common mistake that you see entrepreneurs doing? Okay, and you keep giving the same answers, similar answers, but you keep seeing it happen over and over again. Does that happen to you?
I think it happens not just in the entrepreneurship space, but in like any interaction with people. The reason why I realized throughout my coaching experience and advisory experience, is that people take time to internalize concepts. And that
Hmm.
is why, one of the more popular saying is that, you can make mistakes multiple times, but the whole point is to try to learn from the mistakes and not do them again. But it's a very difficult thing to do, because as humans we are very complex and yet simple at the same time. A lot of things that we know and do, they're very, very ingrained with us, and this becomes more and more pronounced with age. As a kid, we are like sponges and we change and adapt quite quickly. But as we grow older, these concepts and behaviorisms and mannerisms and whatnot, they all become ingrained in us, and it's very difficult for us not just to change our behavior but to change the way we think, and it takes multiple times. So I don't blame people for that. I mean, that's why I came out with the 5E scale engine. It's a framework, right? But a framework doesn't mean that you can immediately adopt it. It takes time, right? And that's the
Yeah.
coaching process. Otherwise, there's no need for coaches, there's no need for advisors. Some people might find coaching to be a unfamiliar concept, So maybe I'll use the concept of personal training. If there's no need for guidance, then there's no need for personal trainers, right? Because if you think about it, people know what to exercise, know how to exercise. They know the exercises like bicep curls and bench presses and deadlifts. They're not unfamiliar exercises. Even if they were, you could just Google for them and you'll know how to perform the exercise. But then why would there be personal trainers? So the reason why personal trainers and coaches and advisors, why they exist, is because people take time to internalize things, not just exercises, but behaviors and actions, whether it's fitness or business. And I think that's the reason why, uh, you know, I do what I do. Like as a coach, I've got to be there for my customers, my clients, and to let them know, what should be done, what should not be done, and tell them maybe more than once, and guide them, show them, give them examples, go from different angles, so that they finally understand and finally can internalize what needs to be done.
Very, very wise words. Thank you for saying that as well. Okay, so Frederick did bring it back a bit. So Robert is saying over here, clarity, guidance, and accountability are important. 100% agree on that. And Frederick was okay. Maybe he was asking here is getting targeted customers for your offer. This is pretty much, I think, it's a more of a generic business question. But would you like to take that?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the key things is to understand what is your offer, what is the customer that you're targeting. These 2 points are how I will approach problems like this. Sometimes businesses don't know these things, and that's the problem, right? It's not just putting together what you think is going to work and then trying to go run like Facebook ads, guerrilla marketing, referrals, whatever it is. The channel doesn't matter as much as the offer that you're creating, and knowing the customer that you're serving. Once you know these points, it's a lot easier. For instance, if you are running a steakhouse, for example, selling some of the best steaks in the world, and you decide to come up with a very targeted or very precise offer, maybe you're running a anniversary promotion or a Christmas sale, where you get a special menu where you bring in like some of the finest steaks in the world, cooked by some of the best chefs, and served with some of the most delicious sides that you can prepare. And on top of that, you're throwing in a discount. It's just irresistible, right? But then, because you don't know who your targeted customers are, or you don't know who your customers are, you take this offer, and then you go to like maybe the nearby convention hall and hand it out to the people there, right? Because you think, because people are here for a convention, they must be hungry and they must want to experience, and therefore they should, be very happy with my offer. But what if it was a convention for vegans, right? The international convention for vegans. Man, that will be terrible, right? That's a immediate offer target mismatch.
Yep.
And yeah, and that's why I always like to kind of pull back a bit, right? Ask yourselves, who is it that you're serving? What is the offer? What is the product? Do they make sense? Do they gel? Is it really answering a pain point? Is it really solving a problem? And then it's a lot easier to find targeted customers.
Thank you so much for answering that. Okay, so Frederick, I hope that was helpful for you. That was advice from a $30 million Mr. Alvin Poh over here. Okay, so we've got about a couple more minutes. Time is going by so quickly, Alvin. All right, so you know what I'm going to do is that I really want to respect your time. Thank you so much for taking so much of this. Okay, I'm going to kind of skip the next questions that I had, simply because I want to respect your time. Now, then in this case, what I want to ask now is if people do want to connect together with you, Alvin, where can they go?
I'm on all social media. I'm especially present on Facebook and Instagram, so you can reach me there, or you can just visit my website superscaling.com and reach me there as well.
Thank you so much. Okay. And okay, Frederick says thanks. You're very welcome, Frederick. Thank you for asking
Yeah,
that
you're
question
welcome.
as well. Yeah, sweet. Okay, so any closing words from you before we end? Any closing words of wisdom?
Well, I mean, it depends on what people are doing, but I'm assuming people are entrepreneurs. In which case, I really, really, I mean, that's one of the things that I discovered recently, like in the last few years of my life, that knowing where you're going is like one of the key things that need to be discovered and need to be defined before you start. I think a lot of times, even
Mm,
myself, I'm guilty of that, where I just, barge ahead, all right, try to create a path through the trees. And honestly, that's not the best way to do things. The best way to do things is to really know where you're headed to, right? Knowing like the requirements, knowing like what the scope is, knowing what kind of resources you need, and then plotting a path that makes sense, that's sustainable, that can get you there. All right, and then just committing to the process and trusting it to bring you to where you want to go. um, yeah, that's my piece of advice.
thank you. Great words. I think as you were speaking, it reminded me of a quote from Alice in Wonderland, right? If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So be very
Yeah.
clear, yeah, on where you want to go. Really, really, yeah. But I think it's what you mentioned that brought to my mind as well. So Fiona is saying over here, thanks Alvin for sharing your experience. Very informative and interesting. Okay, and
Welcome.
we have some. Yeah, very welcome as well. Thank you so much. And we got someone who have thumbs up. I can't see your name right now, but we are about to end. But thank you so much for having a thumbs up over here. So anyway, Alvin, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate you for taking the time to come onto the show. For then in this case, if we have the opportunity, I would love to invite you back again. And guys, once more, okay, please head over to superscaling.com to check him out. Okay, he's available on all socials. He's a very, very nice guy. Same as me. So if anything, we are nice people. I don't trust you. I'm just throwing some random words there. But
I
yeah,
can't say
so
that
this
for
this was
everybody from like born in the same year, but definitely know Asher from a while back, and he's a nice guy. Add me on socials, guys. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever, YouTube, right? And yeah, just have a conversation with me there. Looking forward to hear from you
awesome.
guys, and thanks so much for having me. I appreciate this, and having the space and time to talk to all of you.
All right. Thank you, Alvin. So just stay on the line in a bit. I'm just gonna wrap up the show. We'll chat with you in a bit. All right. Take care, Alvin. We'll
Sure.
see you in a bit. Bye bye.
Take care, guys.
Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for taking your time together with me. And I found out who this was. This was Kelvin. Kelvin Ho, thank you so much for your thumbs up as well. So, my friends, once more, I really want to appreciate Kelvin, Alvin for taking his time together with me to share his stories, his lessons, and I learned a lot as well. Remember, my friends, before we go, always, as long as for your goal, for your dreams, everything you want to fight for, always #keep trying until you get there. Okay, if that's it, take care. God bless.